Well, this is exciting, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, viewer, listener. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News. Adam Crafton, excellent journalist of The Athletic, has sat down with an interview with the big dog at Shakhtar, the CEO, and he's given very interesting insight of how Chelsea did their business, got Mudryk, and actually how Arsenal offered the same amount of money as Chelsea. So, how did the Ukrainian sensation that was twerking for Arsenal end up at Chelsea Football Club? Really, really interesting video this is going to be. I urge you guys to go check out the article. I'm going to read some of the questions and answers here for insight. Thank you for joining me. Please do drop a like if you want to support the content. It means a lot, friend. You're welcome to subscribe as well. Hell, only if you wanna, man. Right then. So, on The Athletic, Adam Crafton did sit down with Sergei Palkin and asked him a bunch of questions about the sensational transfer, of which is the biggest from Ukrainian football history. So, Adam Crafton begins like this. A lot of supporters of Premier League clubs are fascinated by this transfer. It looked like Mudryk would go to Arsenal, but then, in the space of 24 hours, he joined Chelsea. When did you realise Chelsea was the destination? So for context, we all thought this as well. It did look like it was happening, and it was a blockbuster, historic hijack that was just super interesting. So Palkin says this: I realised 2 days ago, which was Saturday, when Chelsea arrived here, the co-owner, Bedad Egbali, and the director of global talent and transfers, Paul Winstanley. So, of course, we know Bedad Egbali, the representative of Clear Lake. Him and Todd are like the owners, the face of Chelsea. And Paul Winstanley is the transfer dude that we recently robbed off Brighton. So they flew out to Turkey, and obviously Shakhtar have got their training camp out there, so that's why they went there. Before Chelsea arrived, I did not know they were close because I communicated with Arsenal in the same way I had been with Chelsea. Even I can tell you more, I met Arsenal more times than Chelsea. Well, we knew that, right? Therefore, before the last meeting, Arsenal were close. A little bit closer to Chelsea than this deal. Well, already that blows my mind. Though, in hindsight, we're hearing that Chelsea have looked at Mudryk for a while, since back in the summer. Granted, we didn't get as close as Arsenal in terms of making free bids and really publicly trying to get him, and of course, Arteta really wanted him as well. So how many times did you meet Arsenal? He says he doesn't count telephone conversations. Well, if he doesn't count telephone conversations, it was 3 times. So 3 meetings with Arsenal and loads of times on the blower in between. So Adam Crafton asks this: from our conversations with sources close to the deal, the impression I have is that Arsenal were confident you had found a compromise with them, and that you'd seen the player on himself on social media, watching Arsenal matches, the twerking. What, in your view, changed things? What is the willingness for Chelsea to fly to Turkey and meet the figure? This is what the questions, ladies and gentlemen. He answers this. From my point of view, this is why everybody talked about Arsenal. It's because Arsenal contacted the player almost 1.5 months before they contacted us. Can you imagine, for example, to have the Arsenal coach, Mikel Arteta, Arsenal's Ukrainian player, Alexander Zinchenko, and the sporting director, Edu, calling you, to have Arsenal calling you almost every day, every 2 days, every 3 days. You can want or not want the move, but you follow this kind of reception and contact. So, hold on, maybe the twerking originally came from Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal, look, man, let's make no bones about it. They're playing well, they're top of the league, they're an attractive prospect. On the surface of it, like right now, that's what you see. If you talk about Chelsea, they called me at the end of December and asked if they can contact Mudryk because they are interested in him and they want to talk with him. Bearing in mind, Chelsea have been thinking about Mudryk since last summer, and also when Brentford were looking at him as well. So I said, no problem, you can contact him. The first time they contacted him, he was around the end of December, the start of January. They contacted the player and the agent of the player, and they met the financial conditions. So they said, what's your, contract demands, Mudryk? Mikhailo, what do you feel you're worth? And he says, I think I'm worth this is my demands. Okay, we'll pay you that, said Chelsea. Therefore, why did many people around it have the impression that Mudryk was going to Arsenal? It is because Arsenal contacted him and then Mudryk started to watch some games of Arsenal. But negotiations are negotiations. When you didn't close anything, when you didn't close the last dots, then you cannot finish the deal. Therefore, it was just an outside visual impression that Mudryk was close to Arsenal. An outside perspective, an external impression that this deal was close. Were there any other clubs close to the deal? There are some contacts, but not serious, so it was just two clubs. It was Chelsea versus Arsenal, and interestingly, Chelsea were always in this race for a long time, were certainly interested, and Adam Crafton said on the Athletic Football podcast, the Straight Out of Cobham podcast, which of course is the Chelsea Athletic podcast, that actually their contacts from Shakhtar, they're journalists or they're people inside their contacts. When everyone thought he was going to Arsenal, they were getting texts saying, "Wait for this." Yeah, you think this is done? Wait and see what happens. So, did you ask Arsenal whether it was right for them to contact the player before they spoke to the club? Normally, clubs make a complaint. Yeah, it's called tapping up, isn't it? Isn't that technically illegal? When he says, when I met Arsenal and they mentioned they'd already talked to the player and they had contacted the player, to be honest, I knew beforehand they had contacted him. I said, okay, when you start to contact him. To be honest, at this point, Shakhtar need money. The Ukrainian football's been hit massively by geopolitical problems, which of course is huge. And they knew they were going to make a lot of money on Mudryk. They knew they were going to sell Mudryk. It wasn't like they were going to... Regardless of them thinking he's a superstar, they knew this was their, cash cow. This was their opportunity to make a lot of cash. So the fact how there was contacts. And in the other scenario, a football club might be like, "Oi, don't tap up our player." Like Chelsea a few years ago, "Don't talk to Eden Hazard. Why are you talking to Eden Hazard?" It's not like, "We're desperate for money, we need to sell Hazard." So it was a different situation. And they did not make a complaint to FIFA. So this is where it gets juicy. Our understanding is in that the final offers from both the clubs, the total figures were basically the same, but the difference was the speed of payments. Is that correct? Overall, it was the same. It was the same figure. So for everyone out there saying Chelsea just paid more money, it's not. Arsenal offered the same money as Chelsea. So the fixed part was this is wild as well, because everyone thought the fixed part was more for Chelsea, but the fixed part was the same. The variable part was the same. The bonuses were the same for not financial. But if you look inside the fixed part and the bonuses, it was different. So Adam says in what way? So he says a different scheduling of the payments, different times of payments, and different kind of bonuses. Yes, we can talk about bonuses, but these bonuses should be somehow achievable, realistic, let's say. So basically, we know one of these bonuses is for Mudryk to win the Champions League. And ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing we know about Arsenal in the Champions League, they don't win the Champions League. So therefore, Chelsea was much more serious and fair in some points. When we met Chelsea, we stayed all together. For you to understand the context, it was 9 or 10 hours. They invited the player and explained to us the whole project. We realised that, yes, if you look right now, Chelsea have some kind of problems. Yes, 10th in the table and struggling to beat, worse London teams. But this is normal because they have a transition period from one owner to another. Yes, thank you. It's understandable. They would like to change a lot. So when they explain to you their whole story and you look for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then you see they have a serious project. I believe they will build one of the best clubs in the world. Because I'm telling you, they are very serious in all directions. Sports science, the stadium side, the commercial side, for all things. For us, they look very ambitious. So it was probably also Chelsea trying to cultivate a good long-term relationship with Shakhtar here as well. Our information is that Chelsea deal includes add-ons if they win the Premier League, Champions League. Is that true? Yeah, these kind of bonuses. Is there anything relating to Mudryk of the Ballon d'Or? So there is no Ballon d'Or clause, essentially. He pours cold water on that. Is there a deadline if Chelsea win the Premier League or Champions League? It's 8 years or 7.5. The length of the contract is 8.5 or 7.5 plus 1. So basically within the length of that contract they sign, which is quite a lot. But, I would hope I would hope, touch wood, Chelsea win the Premier League or Champions League in the next 8.5 years. Right? I mean, we won 2 in 9 years, technically. Did Mudryk say to you, let me leave in January, or would you wait into the summer? We had no detailed discussions with Mudryk. This is interesting. He was professional. He did not push us. He did not want us to meet and ask why he had him sold or complain or sold for 50 million, 60 million. We just said, Mikhailo, we're running negotiations. We want to help you and believe that you will finalize it. So just relax and train properly. He's an ambitious kid. This is an opportunity for him either way, right? There was no pressure from his side or the agent's side. Maybe you even saw his agent do an interview and say Mudryk is professional. Basically, they were all chilled and they all knew it was for the greater good. So, did he speak to Chelsea head coach Graham Potter before joining? He spoke with him this weekend. Interesting. So this is also a bit, the controversy, the geopolitical stuff. On Monday, Shakhtar president announced that his team will play a friendly with Chelsea in Donetsk if the conflict ends in Ukraine. Can you clarify this? Is it written into the agreement? Yes, it's written into the contract. This is really interesting. But actually, we did not even read it, the contract, because Badad spoke with our president. Badad supports Ukraine a lot because he is American. It's an English club. So for us, it's a positive triangle because when you say England and Ukraine, it's important for the war and support at this moment. They spoke very well, shook hands. I know because I translated. I like the conversation very much, and I believe it does not matter if it was in the contract or not. It was Bedard who proposed the friendly because he said he wants to help Ukraine, to help Ukrainian refugees and support the Ukrainian people. Yeah, for us, this match in Donetsk would be like having a miracle. Not playing a home game for a long time. We would want this very much. Yeah, that is nice. Especially, it's good to hear it was Badad Barley that said, let's have this friendly. Obviously, that the conflict will have to be well over, and it'd have to be completely safe, which of course it would be. But yeah, that's really nice. I'm not going to read all the questions here. I do feel like it's important for you guys to go read this. $25 million is going to the war support. From a wider reporting, it appears that Arsenal made a final offer on Thursday or Friday. Did you speak to Arsenal to tell them it was all done with? So before Chelsea arrived in Turkey, we almost agreed with Arsenal that there was no chance to close the deal. When they proposed the final offer of 70 plus 30, which is what we did, we sat down and started to talk internally about how we fulfilled the terms and payments, the fixed part and bonus issues. We realised it was not close to this deal with Arsenal. I said to Edu, I did my best. It's not happening. So was it a relief when Chelsea came in? When Chelsea arrived, they just called and said, okay, we know you've negotiated with Arsenal. We know you're close to some kind of figures. We want to meet. I said, okay, let's meet. I told Mudryk, if we do not sell you this winter, we will definitely sell you in the summer. I said, maybe you will cost even more in the summertime, but we are ready to accept. So yeah, Mudryk just he obviously said, maybe I guess you wanted to go in the winter. So while meeting Chelsea, did you need to keep a poker face to say Arsenal was still involved? Well, this is a good interview from Adam Crafton. He's giving them the juice. This is football. The world is quite close. I know for sure everybody knows what's going on from the Arsenal side. Well, we all have Twitter, and apparently that's all you need these days. Chelsea side, all these things, negotiations were involved for a lot of people. Saying that, Chelsea snuck in, didn't they? So not everyone knew about Chelsea being in towards the end. A lot of journalists are around it too. Yeah. Okay, so to end on this as well, there's a couple of questions I'm skipping because again, I urge you guys to check out this article. He asked about Roman Abramovich because obviously Arsenal fans will be talking about Russian money and, Mudryk being a traitor and all this kind of stuff. So this time last year, Chelsea were owned by Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich. He faced sanctions from the British government before Chelsea was sold to this new ownership. Now the club is in a very different place. Is that important as well? I think yes, because if there was no new owner of Chelsea, there'd be a lot of critics in respect of us because of these kind of connections. Probably impossible to make the deal then? Yes, probably. Well, maybe impossible, he says. Of course, we don't have that old ownership anymore, and I think it is significant that, I think it might be like a particular move to get this big Ukrainian star, have him presented at Stamford Bridge in the London derby with a Ukrainian flag around him. I think that's probably quite a strong PR move from the Chelsea ownership. And fair play, Bedadik Barley being really assertive, talking about this friendly in Ukraine. Ultimately, though, the big takeaways from this interview are Chelsea and Arsenal offered the same amount of money. It was the speed of payments and the belief of Shakhtar that the bonuses would be fulfilled at Chelsea, and that they believe the project at Chelsea is actually really strong. Of course, Mudryk did have a conversation with Graham Potter. Not only in this article was it confirmed, it was also confirmed by Fabrizio Romano that he rang him up and convinced him of the project. Because, of course, he's not going to sign for a club he doesn't want to sign for. Yes, he might have been allured by the Arsenal project, but when Chelsea says, look, this is what we're investing in, this is what we're building, you're going to be a part of this, we're going to give you a long-term deal, he could have easily just not transferred to Chelsea and gone to Arsenal in the summer, and if Chelsea withdrew, they probably would have accepted Arsenal's offer. He could have gone to Arsenal. But he said no, like the song goes. I found this really, really insightful. A great journalist, Adam Kraft, and he asked good questions. Very interested in hearing what you guys think. So make sure you tell me your thoughts, feelings, and opinions about how Chelsea went about this deal down in the comment section below. I think it's super interesting. You're welcome to subscribe. Thank you for liking the video. I enjoyed going through this article with you guys. I'll speak to you soon. Love you. Bye.